let's do the body clock. We all have an internal clock, and that internal clock can get off. And when it gets off, it particularly interrupts your sleep at night because your body is on a different time than this time. So what we want to do is we want to get your body on this time. And those people are tired during the day, regardless of how much sleep they got the night before. Anybody want to volunteer for that? Okay, think about what time of day it is right now. Okay, she shows it. And the patient will say, well, I don't know exactly what time it is. It doesn't matter they don't know exactly what time it is. All they got, the brain just has to be processing. The brain will say, well, I think it's about 6 o'clock. Or, you know. So the fact that it blows her out, think about what time of day it is. The fact that that blows her out means her body clock does not agree with this clock. So that's how you test for it. You could prioritize it, as you could any technique we show the entire weekend. Think about what time of day it is. Think about what time of day it is. Okay, it is a priority. That's convenient. So here's how you fix it. You remember SP21 that we used earlier? We're going to rub SP21 and we're going to pull the ears out as if we're trying to turn them into Dumbo, like this. SP21 on the left only, pull the ears out. SP21 on the left, pull the ears out. We do it 3 times, and then we ask the body if we did any good or not. And we say to her, think about what time of day it is right now. And she says, it's gone. So that's how you reset the clock. In her case, it was a priority. So that's good. So she'll sleep better tonight because you got her body clock reset. How does that get off? The most common reason it gets off is from traveling across time zones. Because every time you cross a time zone, the clock changes, the hour. So it's a great little trick to know. And you can use this technique to not only reset the body clock, but you can use this technique to cancel out jet lag. And here's how you do that. Whenever the plane lands, then you rub SP21 on the left, and you do this to yourself. Rub SP21, pull out your ears. And now your clock is on the same time as the time zone that you've now landed in, and you will not have jet lag. You can beat the jet lag if you'll do that when the plane lands. It's really common in children, especially babies that have their days and nights mixed up. You can absolutely fix that. The baby that sleeps all day and cries all night, if you do this to the baby that I just showed you, you can switch the baby around so now they'll sleep at night, be awake in the day. Works fantastic. Now, here's another application. The guy who works shifts, shift work. Every 2 weeks, the shift changes from daytime to nighttime to graveyard, daytime, nighttime, graveyard. The body gets confused. The body gets mixed up. And you could fix that by doing this to that guy or teach him how to do it to himself.
How do you find out?
It does a wonderful job. So ask her tomorrow if she slept better tonight. On page 17 there, it goes into more detail on the neurotransmitters. Serotonin is the one that helps us sleep. And we told you the 4 bones that are associated with each neurotransmitter. And then tryptophan produces more serotonin, tyrosine produces more dopamine, GABA produces GABA, and choline produces acetylcholine. And then the 8 acupuncture points are there for over and under. So it helps anxiety, helps depression, helps the inability to focus or concentrate. The question is, how do you use the high and low acupuncture points for each neurotransmitter? The low will show if they're under, and the high will show if they're over. If you're under, you can tap the one for high, in case the serotonin is bladder 1, to produce more serotonin if it shows under. So you're going to tap the opposite one it shows. When I say show, it therapy localizes. So you have 2 for each one. So there's 8 different acupuncture points there. It also shows the location of the 8 points. It wouldn't hurt any of us to tap bladder 1 before bed to produce more serotonin. That would help us all sleep better. What do you do if spleen 21 and pulling the ears does not help the sleeping? The technique of rubbing SP 21 on the left and pulling the ears out, a shortcut for that. We'll probably talk about this tomorrow, but the shortcut is block out governed vessel 26 and conception vessel 24. So that doesn't show on her. I know it showed on the past. Okay, so therefore, rubbing spleen 21 and pulling the ears out is not going to help her. So you need a different technique. Putting the glass there is a shortcut, so she didn't show that. So she needs something done other than spleen 21 and pulling the ears out. Okay, so we have to find something different.
Please do.
So what we're going to do is we're going to test the rectus abdominis. I want you to sit up. I want you to cross your arms, and then don't let me push back. Now we're going to have you turn, and this is like the transverse. Now, put your legs down. Just for, if I push hard enough.
He's turning.
Yeah. Okay, so if that muscle goes weak, that's indicative of what we call a jammed sagittal suture. And those people have narcolepsy. And a trick that really helps narcolepsy, if you feel yourself getting sleepy, all you got to do is reach up here and spread the sagittal suture like that. And that will wake the person up for about 20 minutes. Now 20 minutes later, you may have to do it again. Pull the sagittal suture apart to wake up.
Don't do it if you're driving.
So you have to,
You can do it on yourself,
oh yeah,
not when you're driving.
or if you steer with your knees.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll strengthen the rectus abdominis muscle. It'll wake you up. And what's apropos here is you have trouble sleeping, so you do the opposite before bed. So before bed, you jam it on purpose and push the sagittal suture together. And that helps a person sleep when the SP21 and the ears do not work. That's the whole point of this. push the sagittal suture together, and that'll help the person sleep. And over the phone, you might have them do both, because you don't know about muscles that they could rub there, pull the ears out, and push this together. Do both of them before bed to help the person sleep. And I know you don't have the dark bedroom, right?
Well, we've darkened it as best we can, and I wear a face mask, sleep mask. So.
I've been to her house, and she has big windows in the bedroom. For sleeping purposes, the darker the better. Okay, thank you for coming up. Okay, if on the magnet, one of them shows, then you go to those 2 acupuncture points, and you see which one therapy localizes. If the low therapy localizes, then you want to tap the high. And if the high one shows, then you want to tap the low one. You do the opposite.
Thank you.
Good. Here's a pretty common thing. It's called a body clock. We all have an internal clock inside of us. And we get in trouble when the internal clock doesn't agree with this clock. So here's how to determine that, and here's how to fix it. So a common reason for having trouble sleeping at night is the body clock is off. Okay, here's how you test the body clock. You take a muscle that's not locked up, and you say to the patient, think about what time of day it is right now. And it blows her out. Any muscle. Think about what time of day it is. Her clock's off. Her internal clock does not agree with this clock. And her body, therefore, doesn't know when it's nighttime like it should. So we're going to reset her clock. The way you reset the clock is you rub SP21 on the left, and you pull the ears out bilaterally like this, as if you're trying to turn them into Dumbo ears. SP21 on the left, pull the ears out. SP21 on the left, pull the ears out. That's how you reset the body clock. How you know you're successful? Because you go back to the original thing, think about what time of day it is right now. Now the weakness is gone, which means you successfully reset the body clock. Obviously, you can do that to yourself. If you're having trouble sleeping at night, do it right before bed. And a fringe benefit is this same technique will eliminate jet lag. So what you do is when you travel across a time zone, as soon as the plane lands, do this to yourself. And what that does, it resets your body to the new time zone that you're now in. And you can go to bed and you can sleep even though you're 3 time zones away from your home where you're used to that particular time. And we've had experiences in our own family where the people who did this slept fine, and the people who didn't do this had trouble sleeping that first night. I remember my family went to Italy, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw my daughter over with the clock, holding the clock underneath the door. There's some light coming in underneath the door. And she was trying to read what the clock was with the light coming in underneath the door, because she was having trouble sleeping. She wouldn't know what time it was. But you can absolutely eliminate jet lag by doing that. So here's a funny story. I just recently had a patient on the phone. She's a regular patient, but in this case, I'm talking to her over the phone. And she's having trouble sleeping. So I'm trying to describe this technique for her over the phone so she can do it to herself. And I'm trying to rub SB21 on the left. Where is that? Well, I said, it's on the midline between the front and the back of the body, under the arm, and I said, it's on the nipple line. And she says to me, at what age? Now, she laughed first, and then I laughed. I wouldn't have laughed if she didn't laugh, but she laughed first. She thought, she realized what she said, so we both got a laugh over it. But it's a darn good technique. We use it for jet lag, we use it for sleeping, particularly is it effective on babies who get their days and nights mixed up. You know, the baby that sleeps all day and cries all night, if you treat the baby with that, and now the babies will sleep at night and not during the day. Very effective for that purpose. Victimization clearing technique. We humans love to play victim, sadly. We have all kinds of excuses. My mother and dad wouldn't let me go to college, so that is why I am like I am today. My brother stole my inheritance, so that's why I'm like I am today. The traffic made me late. We love to play victim. I caught a cold by being around Roger. My wife looked cross-eyed at me, so there must be something wrong. We love to play victim. Okay, so what we're going to ask for a volunteer, and you don't have to tell us what the victimization is. But we just want you to think about it. Anybody want to volunteer for that? I want you to think about where you've been victimized. Okay? Okay, that blows him out. So what I want to do now, I want to find out which head point cancels that out. So you keep thinking about how you were victimized. And bladder 1 cancels it out. So just take the glasses off. Now, I'm going to tap on bladder 1 at the same time as you say out loud, my heart is filled with love and forgiveness. My heart is filled with love and forgiveness. Say it out loud.
My heart is filled with love and forgiveness. 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 My heart is filled with love and forgiveness.
Okay, now I want you to go back to that original thought of how you were victimized. Think about that. And no longer blows him out. So
I can't even think of it.
Tell your friends. Powerful technique. And so many applications.
Thank you.
Because the average patient will have several areas where they think they've been victimized. If you can clear that out for them, you've done them a big, big service. With the exception of the governing vessel and conception vessel, that's the other 6 we're checking. What we did in you, we skipped CV24 and we skipped GV26. We checked the other 6. If I wouldn't have found any of the original 6, then I would have gone to CV24 and GV26. But to save time, we checked the ones that usually show up first. I'm looking for the one that cancels it out. See, when you're upset about something that another person did, that's like you taking poison expecting the other person to die. You can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. What you need to do is let go of it. We didn't say what the other person did was right. We just said, we don't want you to dwell on that. We don't want you hung up on that. Even though they did something that's wrong, don't buy into that. Don't let it affect you. And the best thing is you forgive them. Even though they did something wrong, you forgive them. Maybe they're too dumb or they're too stupid. Don't harbor on that. Don't let it eat you up, because if you do, that's like you drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. Doesn't work that way. So to make your muscle testing more accurate, a couple of things you want to watch out for. And one is if the patient looks up towards the top of their head with their eyeballs, that'll throw you off. That's a strengthening direction. So let's see, let's test this psoas. You're trying it. You're trying. Okay, now I want you to look up. See how that would have thrown me off? I would assume that was strong, but it really is not strong, but it appeared strong because she was looking up. The moral of that story is make sure your patient's not looking up. Here's another example. Hold your breath. Strong, because she's holding her breath. Now, breathe normal. So there's 2 things to watch out for. Don't let them hold their breath. Don't let them look up. Now, how about a volunteer that would fall into the category of kidney? Anybody here have frequent urination, nocturia? I want you to get off the table, but stay up here.
Okay.
Let's try this one. So this one doesn't do so good. Okay, so I found 2 in a row. 2 in a row means it might be me, because I'm touching the patient. The surrogate effect is in effect. So the way to do that, anytime you get 2 in a row or 3 in a row, you should be suspicious. It might be this person. So here, the way to take this person out of the circuit is to touch the neurovascular for the PMC. Now, if that got strong, it means it was me. But it stayed weak, so therefore it's not me. That makes sense? He's weak in the clear, and if I take myself out of the circuit, he's still weak in the clear. If he gets strong when I take myself out of the circuit, then I know it's me. Got that? It just takes you, the testor, out of the circuit. Okay. Now, you got that? We're going to go to something new. They both have the same thing. Okay. So now I want you to treat him. I want you to do, I want you to touch here. I want you to rub next to the navel. Oh, right there. Rub. Now she's doing vascular, and she's doing neurolymphatic. Now, I want you to do, I want you to touch here and do K5, and I want you to touch here and do lung 8. Now, breathe in. Okay, you're all done. Now, let's see how she did. She did great. She fixed him. But watch what happens. We're done with you. We'll go down here. Thank you, Steve. How about her source? She fixed herself. You see that? Why? Because she was touching Steve as she was doing the corrections, so the surrogate effect fixed her and Steve. What I just said to you is we who do kinesiology on other people, we're fixing ourselves all day long. Therefore, we should be healthier than the average patient. Doesn't mean you're Superman or Superwoman, that you never have anything, but it does mean you should be healthier than the average person. Because she fixed Steve and accidentally fixed herself. You see why that worked? It's good to know. Good to know. One of my pet peeves is the dadgum medical doctors are dying of the exact same diseases their patients are dying from. Not that we're infallible, but at least we should be healthier because we get the surrogate effect all day long on ourselves. So let's do blood chemistry. We've had a lot of fun with this in our office. We do before and after blood test. We have a big blood test called bioassay that checks for 60 items at one time. When I opened up my office, we checked 12 items, and then down through the years we kept adding. Now we're up to 60 things we check at one time. It's called a bioassay. It's a combination of tests I put together myself. We recommend to the patients that they do it once a year. I do it on myself once a year. When you put the tests side by side, a year later, you can see patterns. You can see tendencies. You can nip things in the bud before they get serious. But the shortcut I'm about to show you, we would draw the blood like 5 minutes apart, and it would change. Blood sugar would drop, cholesterol would drop, uric acid would drop, 5 minutes apart. That's how fast it works. You might say, how is that possible? In the psychological world, they have a condition of multiple personalities. There was a famous movie called The Three Faces of Eve that brought that out in the public for the first time. That was a big deal. Nowadays, they find much worse cases than that. 12, 15 different personalities. Why am I bringing that up? Because one of the personalities can have diabetes. And you can prove that by the blood test. Then when they switch to a different personality, you can repeat the blood test and the blood sugar is normal. Uncanny how that can happen. But it just shows you the power of the psychic over the physical body. I think we covered this in Shortcuts 1, the pecking order, or the 5 most important things that affect the health of the physical body in reverse order. The food you eat, the exercise you get, the water you drink, the air you breathe, and number 1 is the thoughts you think. Everyone up above is more powerful than anyone below, which means you can do every single thing right, diet-wise, exercise-wise, water-wise, air-wise, but if your thoughts are corrupted by anger, fear, trepidation, everything else goes down the drain. So the things you do psychological pay big dividends. And so we have a yardstick here to show the before and after. As you know, there are doctors out there who practice psychologically only. There are doctors out there who practice, like a psychiatrist. There are doctors out there who practice structural only, maybe a chiropractor. There are doctors out there who practice chemical only. Some of them are called nutritionists, and some of them are called medical doctors who write prescriptions. And all three of those guys get results. But how do you get better results? You do all three at one time. And you ask the body, do you want something structurally done? Do you want something nutritionally done? Do you want something psychologically done? So as a good kinesiologist, you can cover all three of those. And you should be able to get 3 times the results. Anybody want to volunteer for blood chemistry? No, we're not going to do before and after blood test here because we don't have the equipment to test it. But I'm going to show you how to do it. It's a pretty simple thing once you know it. So far, I'm for the shortcut for chakras is I touch SP21 on the left. That was in course 1. But now this time, we're going to have her touch SP21. Okay, now you're going to touch it over here. Let's see make sure this is strong. Oops. So if you ever get fuzzy results, you're not quite sure, was that strong, was that weak, go to the muscle you can't fool, the quadriceps. The strongest muscle in the body. That's normal. North pole of the magnet turns it off. But this is the muscle to use if you're not sure about the other test muscle. Because this muscle you can't fool. Now, do this one. And that means she doesn't have it. Meaning you don't need blood chemistry done, is what that means. Okay, so let's have another volunteer. So what you just saw me do just then, that's a good ace in the hole that you can rely on. Anytime you're not sure, or you think it's changing on you, go with the quadriceps. Okay, and she's going to touch SB21. Ah, it shows. Touch this one. Okay, it shows on the left. Now, that means she could use blood chemistry. Now, what you got to find out is which acupuncture point cancels that out. It's going to be K27 on the left or the right. You don't know which one it is, so therefore you're going to check both of them. Okay, so let's go to K27 on the left. And let's go to K27 on the right. Okay, the right cancels it out. Whichever one cancels it out, those, now you've narrowed it down to 2 points. SP21 on the left, K27 on the right. You're going to tap those two together. And this is all we did in between the 2 blood tests. Tap the K27 that canceled out the SP21. And of course, you want to make sure it's gone, that you actually made a correction, and it is gone. So this is a case where the patient touches the points, not the testor. And that's all we did in between the 2 blood tests, and dramatic results. Uric acid going down, cholesterol going down, blood sugar going down, triglycerides going down. I've seen triglycerides go down like 200 points. And it just takes a minute to check it. So add that to your armamentarium. And even if you're not doing before and after blood tests in your office, I assure you that when when you tap those together, you're doing the patient a big service. Any questions on how we did that? Does it have an effect on blood pressure? Answer is yes, but we have some better things this weekend for blood pressure. But this helps blood pressure, yes, absolutely. This is something real big we're going to show you now. It's called priority. Here's the deal. When the patient presents themselves on your table, you're looking at a seething mass of compensations and adaptations. See, the body works on a priority system. The highest priority the body has is to survive. And the body will rob energy from less important circuits to supply more important circuits to survive. And let me give you an example. Sometimes I am requested by an insurance company to examine another doctor's patient. They call that an independent medical evaluation, IME. What that means is the insurance company thinks the other doctor is treating the patient too long, dragging it out, and they want to get another opinion. Sometimes they choose me to test that patient, and then I have to write my opinion. So here's what typically happens. They send me the patient records, and the patient's records say that this doctor adjusted a posterior right atlas on 25 consecutive visits. Now, the doctor's not lying. He really did adjust a posterior right atlas on 25 consecutive visits. Well, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that must not be the problem. It must not be the problem if it keeps reoccurring. What he's treating is a compensation. The atlas is going posterior on the right, compensating for something else that's wrong. So he treats the compensation. The next visit, when the patient comes back, the compensation's back again. Must not be the problem. So we need a method to find out what is the problem. It's called a priority system. Here's the good news and the bad news at the same time. Most doctors spend 85% of their time fixing compensations. If you had a method to determine what's a priority and what's not a priority, you could save 85% of your work. So we're going to show you how to determine if it's a priority or not. Our seminar is about shortcuts. You can best appreciate the shortcut if you know the long method. and the long method for determining a priority is it must be weak and to clear. It must therapy localize. Sometimes those are the same thing. It must not go weak on pinching. It must not go weak on head left, head right. It must not go weak on eyes left, eyes right. If you meet all those requirements, it turns out to be a priority. A priority means that if you fix that next, you won't be interrupting with any divine plan. See, here's the deal. The body wants to be fixed in a certain sequence. There's a rule in the health field called Head's Law. Head's Law says the body heals itself from the inside out, from the head down, and in reverse order of how the symptoms originally occurred. From the inside out, from the head down, in reverse order of how the symptoms originally occurred. So, all that criteria can be summarized with a hand mode. And hand mode is you put the thumb at the junction. Let me start over. You put the middle finger at the junction of the distal and proximal phalanx of the thumb. Now, if you look, you'll see a homunculus drawing there. Homunculus means little man. And a homunculus is drawn, the figure of the man is drawn according to how many brain cells are devoted to that part of the body. So you see there on your picture that the man has little bitty legs, little bitty torso, little bitty arms, a big hand, and a huge TMJ area. So between the TMJ and the hand, it easily occupies 50% of the motor cortex. Easily, 50% of the motor cortex is devoted to nerve endings from the hand and the TMJ area. So later we're going to talk about TMJ in detail. But when you see the homunculus drawing there, it makes you appreciate how many nerve endings go to the hand. So we can use the hand modes for many, many different things. Priority-wise, the hand mode is the tip of the middle finger touches the proximal, the joint of the proximal and distal line of the thumb. What we're looking for is that changes the muscle test. And if it changes the muscle test, it's a priority. It can make a weak muscle go strong, it can make a strong muscle go weak. If it changes the muscle test, it's a priority. If it does not change the muscle test, when you do this, don't waste your time fixing it. If it's not a priority, one of two things happen. Number one is you either can't fix it, or number two is it doesn't stay fixed. Like the posterior right atlas I told you about. The guy, the doctor who did it on 25 visits, he wasn't lying, he really did it, but he was treating a compensation. You have to ask the body, what's it compensatory to? What does the body want done? If you're on a cruise ship and the main generator goes out, the engine room switches over to the secondary generator. And so you're sitting in your stateroom and you see the light on in your room. You don't know, is that light on because of the primary generator or is that light on because of the secondary generator? You don't know. Unless you were present when they did the switch, you could have seen the light go out and the light come back on. Sometimes it occurs even the secondary generator goes out. So now the emergency storage batteries kick in. Now only certain lights on the ship are lit up like exit signs. So the exit signs are lit up all the time, but you don't know, is it due to the primary generator, the secondary generator, or the storage batteries? So when your muscle is strong, you don't know, is that muscle strong because it's alive and healthy, or is it a compensatory for something else wrong? So if you can establish the priority, then you're going to save yourself a lot of work. Now, let's have another volunteer. We'll try to give you an example of this. I'm going to try to find some weak muscles on her. And I'm cheating here using something called iridology. I want you to push out. Okay, there's a teres minor on the left. Hold here. Here's a sternocleidomastoidus muscle on the right. And here's a psoas major muscle on the right. We got three muscles. It's unlikely that all three of those are priorities. Unlikely. Now, when you fix the priority, one of two things happens to the muscles that were not a priority. Either they go away because they were just a compensation, or number two, they become a priority. Two things happen to the non-priority muscle. when you fix the priority. It either goes away because it was a compensation, or now it becomes a priority. Okay, so we're going to have her do the priority. Now, she can do it, or I can do it, either one. Middle finger's touching the distal proximate end of the thumb, and I recheck the psoas. It didn't change anything. Must not be a priority. Now, I'm going to check her anterior right cervical. Nothing happened. Must not be a priority. Now, I'm going to check her left teres minor. It changed it. Now, let go of that. Now, go back, touch it again. It changed this. If it changed it, it's a priority. Now, I used to be so naive to think there's only one priority in the body at a time. I had to eat those words. There can be more than one priority. But the body just told me it's okay to fix the teres minor next. I won't screw up any divine order if I do that. So, I'm gonna do a neurolymphatic and a neurovascular at the exact same time. I could ask the body, which one do you want done? It's faster. You got two hands, might as well keep them busy. One hand does a neurovascular, one hand does a neurolymphatic. And then I say, how's your teres minor now? She says, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, what happened to the psoas? It's gone. What happened to the anterior neck flexor? It's gone. You see why I just saved myself? I don't have to fix the anterior neck flexor. I don't have to fix the psoas. Why? Because I fixed the priority first. How do I know I don't need to do something else? Is what she's asking me. First of all, the body will never lie. We don't always understand what the body's telling us. The patient doesn't always understand what the body's telling us, but the body never lies.